Hello, eighth grade. We are jumping into lesson 8 today. So yesterday you guys finished up your mid-unit assessment. Today we need to read chapter 5. We need to track gist, plot, characterization, and theme, just like we've been doing. And you're also going to analyze a whole book summary in order to prepare to write your own. Before we do that, let's go ahead and look at our entrance ticket for today. This says write 1 or 2 sentences about the central idea or theme of a book you've read on your own. Be sure to include context of what the book is about. So I want you guys to do this independently, and then I want you to find a partner and turn and talk. Go ahead and pause the video now, begin working on this, and come back to me when you're ready to move forward. All right, guys, so I know your answers are going to differ on this. You all read different things, whether it's a magazine or an online article or whatever it is that interests you guys. So we're going to go ahead and look at our learning targets for today, and I trust that you guys have discussed this exit ticket. So we have 2 learning targets. The first says I can track characters, plot, and emerging themes in Mouse. And the second says I can identify characteristics of an effective whole book literary summary. Okay, guys, so it's time now to read chapter 5 of Mouse. Again, you guys do this however your teacher sees fit and wants you to do this. I'm going to leave these things up because when you hit these pages, I would like for you guys to stop and answer these questions. And then once you finish reading chapter 5, I want you to go ahead and capture your gist on your graphic organizer that we've been working off of, and then come back to me when you're ready to move forward. So you guys have quite a lot to do. Read, answer these questions as a class, and then write your gist. Go ahead and pause the video and come back to me when you're ready to move forward. All right, guys, so a few questions that I would like for you to work together in partners to answer. How does Vladek respond to Anya's suicide? So I want you to reread page 103. What does Art think caused Anya's suicide, and how does he feel about his mother's suicide? And then I want you to reread page 109. Why do you think Tasha decides to poison herself, Rishu, Bibi, and Lonia? Okay, so go ahead, pause the video here, and go ahead and talk through these questions with a partner. Your teacher can circulate the room, and then you guys can talk about this as a class. I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Come back to me when you're done. All right, guys, so a couple more questions. We had a big, powerful section of text that we read today. So in partners, think, pair, share. What examples of habits of character were evident in chapter 5? And what habits of character did you practice while reading and discussing chapter 5 of Mouse? Go ahead and answer these questions now. Again, your teacher can circulate the room, and then you guys can have some discussion as a class. Come back to me when you're finished, and we'll move forward into the next thing. All right, guys, so we are ready to go to our trusty note catcher that we've been using for all the chapters previously. You guys should have already written a gist for chapter 5. I'm going to go over that synopsis really quick of chapter 5. And then I'm going to tell you what I want you guys to do from there. Okay, let's see. That is not what I want. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to go over the synopsis of chapter 5. I'm going to read off a few bullet points of the main ideas that happen. So any of these would suffice for your gist. Vladek discovers a comic Art created years ago about his mother's suicide. Vladek gets emotional about those memories, but continues to tell Art his Holocaust stories. Vladek uses jewelry he saved to pay influential people to hide him and Anya from the Gestapo and get him jobs to keep him alive. Thousands and thousands of Jews are being sent to Auschwitz to be killed, and the ghettos of Poland are nearly empty. Vladek finally sends his first son, Rishu, to a safe place with a friend, but the Gestapo raid their ghetto too. Rishu's caregiver poisons herself, Rishu, and the other children in her care, so they won't have to die in the gas chambers at Auschwitz. Instead, they die at her house. Heavy stuff, guys, I know. Vladek and Anya keep losing friends and family, but they find a bunker to hide in as they starve with other Jewish friends. Vladek shows Art the valuables he hid during the Holocaust and managed to retrieve when the war was over. And he tells Art he wants him to have his valuables after he dies. So any of those things a combination of those things would have been a great gist. So now I want you guys to fill in the, what are the key events? Okay, so the key events section, I'm going to scroll down here. The key events section, go ahead and fill that in. And then go ahead and fill in the character development and analysis. So answer these questions. What are the key events that happened in this chapter? Put those there. And then on this side, based on what we learned today, how might we add to or revise the emerging, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. What have we learned about the development of characters in this chapter on the right side? So how are characters changing and developing? And then how does that add to our understanding of that character? So let's take a few minutes to fill in both sides, share with a partner, and then come back to me and I'm going to go over a few of these things with us. Go ahead and pause the video and work through that now. Okay, guys, so on the key plot element side, I think some important things to capture would be Vladik's father starves him to prevent him from meeting weight requirements for the draft. Am I on the right chapter? No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Disregard that. I was like, wait a minute. We've already read that. I need to go down to chapter 5. Okay. So again, along the lines of the things that I said in the synopsis, some big things. Vladik gets emotional about these memories coming back up. We find out that thousands and thousands of Jews were being sent to Auschwitz. We find out about Vladik's first son and what happened to him. And then the valuables that Vladik shows Art, and then he tells Art he wants him to have those when he dies. I think all that is important to go on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, character development and analysis. So Vladik is deeply sad. He cared for his family. He loved his wife. He worked very hard to keep them alive, but in the end lost a son and a wife. Anya was unable to bear the pain of what she experienced during the Holocaust. Vladik believes it is important to share his story of the Holocaust with his son, even though it pains him to remember. Vladik showed agency in making multiple difficult choices to try to keep himself and his family alive. And then Vladik and Anya persevere through extremely harsh conditions while going into hiding. All that is very, very important. Lastly, take a few minutes to fill in that bottom section. Based on what we learned today, how might we add to or revise the emerging themes that we've already discussed? So, some things we've discussed: perseverance, agency, persistence, and family ties. Those are 4 big ones. And then remembering. So those 5 things, kind of add to those a little bit. Take about 5 minutes, add some notes to that section, share with a partner, and then come back to me and I'm going to go over that a little bit with you guys. Okay, guys, so under emerging themes, I think it's important to note that humans make difficult choices in order to try to keep themselves and their families alive. And there's a deep human will to survive and persevere. Those are huge themes in this book so far. And then under remembering, reflecting on the past is painful. And the effects of the Holocaust are complicated, painful, and long-lasting. That's important to note. Lastly, humans tell stories of a painful past so that others can learn about history and learn not to repeat it. Okay? All right, guys, so we're going to jump into our closing for today, which is to analyze a whole book literary summary. So I want you to turn and talk. What might be some of the similarities between a chapter summary and a whole book summary? Turn and talk with a partner, and then I'd like for your teacher to call on a few of you and let you share out as a class. And then come back to me, and I have one more question before we look at the model. Go ahead and answer this question now. All right, guys, turn and talk. What might be some of the differences between a chapter summary and a whole book summary? Go ahead and have some discussion and then share out as a class. Come back to me and we will move forward. All right, guys. So, you guys, your answers are going to vary. Obviously, a chapter is going to be a much smaller section or a much smaller piece of information to cover than a whole book, right? So let's go ahead and look at a model whole book summary. So I want your teacher to go over this rubric with you. So I want you guys to talk through this rubric, and then I want you to, you're going to use this rubric when I ask you to write your own whole book summary. So knowing this rubric and understanding what it says and what it means to have an advanced book literary summary is important. So I want you guys to go ahead and go through this rubric first and then come back to me. So let's just go through the rubric first, okay? Go ahead and do that now and then come back to me when you're ready to move forward. Okay, guys, so this model whole book summary is from Summer of the Mariposas, okay? And I want you guys to do a choral reading of this. So I want you to read it out loud, popcorn read, whatever you guys want to do, however you want to do it. But I think it needs to be heard aloud first. So let's go ahead, pause the video, and do a reading of this whole book summary aloud. All right, guys, so I want you to have some conversation with a partner. Based on your first read, what are some of the key characteristics of an effective literary summary? So, in other words, what worked well? What was done well in that model summary? Go ahead and talk with a partner about that now and then share it as a class. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave this here and I want your teacher to go through this again with you and maybe allow you guys to find these things in that model summary. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. This is your last activity before class ends today, and I'll see you guys with another lesson very soon.